Hello, I've got the lovely Melissie Jolly with me today, and we're going to talk about the colour mirrors system. So first of all, Melissie, how did the system come about? How did it actually come into being?
Oh, it's an odd question, because in reality, it's hard for me to answer that, because what happened in my life at that time was that I had been working with color for 12 years by then. And then, I went through one of those incredible avalanching initiation times, where everything around you just collapses in a horrible heap. And I mean, it was the year my mother died, my husband left, my kids, because I couldn't afford them, went and lived in England. And I suddenly found myself in the most awful kind of literally almost homeless situation. And at that point, simply for survival, I had to do something. And I had all this information about color, and I'd been working with it, and I was probably the best qualified color therapist in the country, but I didn't have a tool to work with. And a friend of mine who was a chemist said, but it's a thing, you can make it. And I was like, no, it's sacred, it's holy, how the hell, I mean, how would I make it? Anyway, he said, I know how you can make it. And then we kind of got together and we worked out the formulas. And then from that point, it suddenly literally sprang into being. I mean, that was quite a weird, if I think back on it, it feels a little bit magical and miraculous, because at that point, I then started making it. And literally in 2 days, I made 33 bottles and had their stories kind of, it was literally, I mean, Karani's lovely word is download. It was literally a massive download, and there it was. And I always say it felt as if it had been wrapped around my heart and just kind of sprang fully formed out of my chest. In reality, it was a bit like giving birth, but not that kind of pain. But there'd been a lot of birth pains before it happened. And once it was there, it was that kind of thing, like when you've had a baby, you're so in love, you don't know what you're doing. And it was literally that. And the evolution of it has also fits in very much to the analogy of giving birth, because what then happened was it kind of grew up and grew legs and took off all by itself. I now look at it with amazement, as if, I mean, I keep wanting to introduce it as, here's my son, the doctor, in a typically kind of Jewish mother way, I'm so proud I made that. But I don't feel as if I made it. I think it entirely did its own thing and grew in its own way and created this own story that has now evolved and is now, I mean, from 33 bottles made on my kitchen table to what it is now is a very different thing. And I mean, it really is its own thing. And that's kind of the story of how it happened. But the evolution was entirely very little to do with me. Then I met Moira, and through Moira, Karani, and then through Karani, all sorts of people, and through Moira, all sorts of people, and through all those people, all sorts of people. And, it's now grown into this thing that people say global. I'm not sure what that means, but yes, I suppose we are a world getting together group now.
Definitely.
So that's kind of the story, yes.
So what did you do with it when you first had those 33 bottles? What was the very next thing you did?
Well, I that was on a Wednesday. The Thursday and Friday, I wrote the notes, and on the Saturday, I ran a workshop. Wow. Because I'd been working with color, so I'd been teaching groups of people, and I'd had a lot of people that have come to me and said, what is the next thing? And then I kind of literally introduced it, I suppose, as the next level. And where the system before had little square bottles and were very regimented and very kind of militarily organized, there were rules and regulations, and you've got to do it like this and like this, and you had to sign contracts and all the rest of it. And then suddenly, because they were round bottles, they suddenly had this soft feminine energy. And I really got that what I had somehow given birth to was very much a Magdalene system. It was the female of the species. It was, you know, if you have a crystal with a point, it is a very pointed energy that you can point at a place. But if you have a round crystal, if you have a crystal ball, that energy is diffused, but it spreads much wider, and it gives much more energy than that kind of pointed laser-like thing that a sharp crystal will do. And so in a way, what I have is that soft diffused crystal ball energy in the round bottles, and it has that that soft holding energy that is a very different thing from anything that's ever been around before.
I think that's so relevant, the fact that it's a system, but it's a system with so much versatility. And
yes,
there's, for the practitioners and the teachers, particularly the practitioners, I would say, there's no one way of doing something. You know,
no.
it's go and use it in whatever way works for you. And if I look at my little practitioner group that I trained with through Krani, there were 6 of us, and we were all sort of looking at each other without each other knowing, thinking, well, you're amazing, but we all brought something different to the table. Yes. And I think, you know, we talk about the Colour Mirrors family, don't we? And I think on a much broader scale, that is true. How do you see the Colour Mirrors family?
Literally like a family, but I'm a hell of a mumsy. I was very useless at most things, but when I became a mum, I suddenly went, you know what, this is something I can do. And so I've kind of, it's been the one place in my life where I actually felt as if I could do it. I mean, everything else in my life I really couldn't do. My daughter laughed at me the other day because I said, I'm not stupid, and I never felt stupid. There are just millions of things I can't do. And I'm quite relaxed about that. There are things I can't do. But I could be a mother. I could nurture. I mean, I nurtured my children so well they had to scatter around the world to get away from all this overparenting. And so I literally kind of gathered the Colour Mirrors family, and I'm very happy to be this kind of uber mom that will seriously interfere with you if you if you don't dodge it with intent. So, you know, it's literally, for me, it's a family. And in the way that one does with a family, you have to let each child develop its own skills and its own gifts. You can't put them in one box. And I certainly know, having had 3 children, they don't even look as if they came from the same planet, never mind the same family. You know, so it's very much that. And so what I look for in the Colour Mirrors family is literally for each person to take it, look, it's mirrors. So I want each person to look at this mirror and see their own beauty and find their own shine and find their own way of being the best them they could possibly be. I really want nobody to try and be anybody else's mirror. You can't be. You cannot be. It's not a physical possibility. So it is find your beauty, find your strength, find your way of mirroring who you are through the system. And if you find a way to do it differently, that's also okay. You know, walk away and go and do your own amazing you in whichever way. And if it is just the stepping stone towards that, I'm still happy with that.
Absolutely. So you talk about the first 33 oils, which to somebody who might not know the colour system, what's in there? I mean, you know, we've got the sun. We start with the sun, don't we? So maybe could you talk people through a little bit about those first 33?
Well, it was such an interestingly amazing bit of grace that happened just on the day that I was making those first bottles. And I'd somehow always known 33 was always a number for me. And, you know, it's the Christ number and it's all of that. And that's kind of the energy I've mostly worked with all along the line. And so the first 33 was what I was kind of setting out to make, in a way unconsciously, but kind of had a little sense of it was going to be 33. And then somebody arrived and with a gift for me, and they brought me a box of the goodness me, what is her name? The star card lady. She wrote a big astrology book that was kind of the thing before anybody knew anything. You know, I mean, remember, I'm very old. Before all of you lot came along, all you starry beings came along, there were very few bits of really spiritual information around. Nobody had started channeling. Nobody had done any of that stuff. But this woman had written a very big astrology book. I'll think of her name in a minute. Anyway, and this girl brought me her star cards, and there were 33 of them. And oh my God, I can't even tell you, Anne, how exciting it was, because when I saw these cards, they had a lot of them mirrored the colors of the bottles I'd been making up to that point. And it was just so exciting. And so what I had been thinking about my bottles was that I didn't want to go kind of tarot route. I was thinking astrology. And so these cards came along, and the first 9 cards were astrological cards. So that was a very easy thing to then kind of match up. And so it came about that in a way, the first 33 bottles do kind of have more astrological links than certainly the rest of them. So it was the sun and the moon and etc., Jupiter and Uranus, and round and round we went. So the first 9 were stars, were astrology names. And then from there on in, it kind of developed its own story. So, and that of course has changed. And certainly with this last beautiful book that Karani wrote, you know, our big Kalamira's Bible, some of them got renamed and so on. So
there we go.
That's the one.
I'll just show that to people so they can see that. I mean, that's a phenomenal book with so much. It's just packed, isn't it? Packed full. It's incredible.
Yes.
Karani's writing, obviously, it's a mix of the two of you. It's, you know, so between you, it's just incredible. The wording for me is so powerful with the colours. I get, absolutely, we talk about the color and the energy of the color, but certainly for me personally, I get a huge amount from the wording.
Yes.
Like, huge, you know.
No, I agree 100%. And I can honestly say that, I mean, other than the actual bottle notes, you know, I mean, the little thing at the beginning of each bottle, the rest was Karani who just downloaded. You know, it was what I ended up, my part of that was to say, oh God, oh wow, oh that's amazing, yes, carry on. It was really that was very much Karani's magic, and thank God for her, I have to say, every day, really. Without Moira and Karani, there would not be this global thing. Moira was the marketing person that ran with it, and Karani then came along as our very magical scribe that kind of, in a way, as you say, the words then made it real. You know, that really kind of anchored it. So I think the three of us made a very good kind of a one solid thing.
Absolutely. And then at some point, the essences also, how did they come into being as such?
Well, what happened was I had the oil bottles, but there's it's one thing to have an issue and go and bath in a bottle, but color works on so many levels that to then what you needed was kind of push button healing. You wanted something to put in your bag and take with you. You wanted something that could kind of, I don't know, keep you safe, hold you. And again, I didn't, you know, I was in such an odd place when it all happened that, and I can't say I was trying to keep it small, but I wasn't wanting the big guns. I wanted an angel spray set, and I wanted them to be little house angels. I didn't want the archangels. They were very bloody intimidating. I wanted one that could help me find my keys, or would make my child not have nightmares or whatever it was. And so I created the first set of 7 angels there were. And they were literally just named colors. They were green angel, red angel, blue angel, yellow angel, etc. Then I was running a workshop. I was doing channeling work at the time. I was teaching people how to channel. And again, I wasn't going to let them get away with, I am now channeling Saint Germain. I wasn't going to do any of that, because I actually believe that we all have the ability to channel, and what we are channeling is our own higher aspects, because we're so much more than we think we are. Oh my God, we are amazing. And what we have is access to this incredible outside ourselves support. And so what I was teaching was channeling your own higher self. Very hard to teach anybody anything, I've realized. Everybody's got their own story. And I've even found with readings, and I'm sure you can agree with me, but I have done readings for people and they have years later come back to me and said, oh my God, you changed my life. You said blah, blah, blah. And I'd go, never in the whole of my existence have I ever said such a thing. But what they heard through the filter of their story, I mean, essentially, I could have been reading out of a telephone directory. What I say and what they hear are such different things, because people already have their story and they kind of filter it into what they need to hear. So even though I was teaching how to channel your higher self, very quickly people came to me and said, I have just connected with the energy of the Archangel Metatron. Can you make us an essence for that? And so I checked, because I don't let myself be talked into doing things. It's got to be, that's the one thing I do, even though I have very little personality and I mostly just say yes to whatever anybody suggests. I don't let people tell me what to do in terms of making bottles, because that's got to be come from a clear source. And sometimes it absolutely is part of what I'm prepared to do, and sometimes it really is not. So I actually, I really have to listen to my own inner voice on that one. And then Metatron was suddenly a yes, to my surprise and amazement. And so when I tried to make this Metatron essence, it just made itself. So I really trust that kind of process, you know, when it just goes yes, and I have to do almost nothing. I'm just the hands. And it's suddenly there it is. And so Metatron became this really big thing. And so, yes, Metatron then became part of the thing. And I'm so about the numbers. I mean, really. And I had 7, and 7 is a very sacred spiritual number. And now suddenly I had 8. So I was like, oh my God, what now? And of course it was magenta. And magenta has been the one thing that has tripped me up every single time. Every time a magenta insists on happening, it's a bridge to something new. Just when I think I'm done, it's a magenta bloody bottle and I've got to make something else comes along. So there was Metatron, and immediately after Metatron, somebody said to me, why don't you make elements? We need elements. We need earth, air, fire, water. And that obviously also then was, yes, indeed. So I made those, and then there had to be again on a workshop. I was now presenting these in a workshop, and then somebody said she did feng shui. Could we have metal? And somebody said she did some kind of meridian therapy. Could we have wood as well? And those went absolutely yes. And so they became part of the system. And I mean, metal was hysterical, because I was kind of going, oh yes, metal, wait, that's alchemy. So I will make this. And I saw it in my mind's eye as a kind of almost a pewtery, silvery, metallic metal. Dear God, I tried to make this thing. And the more I tried, the more it stank and the worse it got and the more slimy it looked. And it was just an appalling thing. It was, and nothing I've not had that experience before. Every time I thought I was going to do something, it would be like, yes, and here, and it would just kind of fly out. Well, metal was not that. But thank God I had an assistant that was just very clear and beautiful. And her name was Silva, perfectly. So Silva came and looked at my debauched abortion of a not silver thing and said to me, "Oh, you idiot, if this is alchemy, you've just made the lead. You're supposed to make the gold." I don't think I could have made the gold had I not made the lead first. So we literally turned the lead into gold, and suddenly it was a very beautiful, incredible smelling, magical thing. And so then we had metal. So then I ran a workshop where I now was being incredibly clever. I had 7 elements because I then added Metatron to the elements as the ether element. So I had 7 angels, 7 elements, and each one matched with an angel. And I just thought I was so clever working this out. I was so pleased with myself. So I ran this workshop, and with kind of really patting myself on the back, which is not my way. I really am not that person. But for a moment there, I had a little, geez, I'm so clever, look at me. And the friend who had arranged the workshop was a tiny little man he had a scoliosis back, and he literally just kind of came up to my shoulder, and he was the kind of standing almost under my arm. And he had super psychic, clear, beautiful healer of a man. He said to me, "I'm so sorry to tell you this, but you're wrong, you know." I was like, "What?" He said, "There's not just these 14 things. There's got to be another 7. There's going to be 21. I thought, "Oh, for God's sake, what are you talking about? I can't." But in the meantime, my lovely friend Pat Angove in Cornwall had been doing dragon workshops, and she'd been asking for a dragon essence. And so I thought, oh, okay, maybe there are going to be 7 dragons as well. So then that's how the dragon essences came about. And they also kind of flew into being all 7. Bang, there they are. And as you now know, none of those numbers stuck. There was another one of this, another one of that. It kept growing and growing. And I don't know how many. I don't even know how many essences, how many spritzers we now have. But, you know, that kind of has been the evolution of the thing. And it's lovely that it's not kind of blocked itself or stopped or went, this is it, we're not doing anymore. It's kind of evolved from here. And, you know, at this point, I'm kind of just sitting back and going, oh, all right, then be like that. So while I'm talking about that, can I show you something quickly?
Of course.
This is possibly, you're the first one seeing this. This is going to be the essence, and it might not be permanent, or it might. It's for I'm doing a workshop on the 20th of March, the 20th and the 21st. And it's kind of building on the big magic workshop I think I did in 2017. And that bottle was yellow and this very pale kind of limey spring green loveliness. So this is a lot. Can you see a very delicate light with a very goldy thing? And oh my God, it smells like heaven. It can be used as a perfume. It is one of the nicest smells we've ever made. And so that's going to be kind of the essence for the big magic workshop. So it might stick around or it might be, but I'm going to give you a little spritz. Just feel the energy of this. It's very soft and it smells of it's got fig and just all kinds of deliciousness in it. It smells it is the nicest smell.
It's beautiful.
Anyway, so that's coming. So that's kind of going to be the big magic. How to make magic. So please use this opportunity to set in motion some kind of magical thing you want to manifest in the next 3 days. Let's see if it works. You'll have to let us know.
And that was the amazing Melissie Jolly talking about the colour mirrors system, or at least part of it. And I have another video which will be out in a few weeks where I've asked Melissie various questions and just tapped into her wisdom. So that will be out fairly soon.